Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Crystal Divine. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Indigenous Lifestyle Vlogs. I'm going to talk to you guys about the different stages of labor. So there's actually 3 different stages of labor. Well, technically there's 4. There's a 4th one that's kind of like the letter Y. You know how sometimes it's considered a vowel? That's what that 4th stage is like. Anyways, today I'm going to break down all 4 stages, and I'm primarily only going to discuss the 1st stage, because it's the longest one and I really don't want this to be a very long video. So the 1st stage begins when you start having contractions, and this stage ends when your cervix is fully dilated. The 1st stage is broken down into 2 phases. You have the early labor phase and the active phase. In early labor, your cervix gradually thins out and dilate. In active labor, your cervix begins to dilate even more. Your contractions will become more rapid and intense, longer, stronger, closer together. And people often refer to the last part of your active phase as another phase, which they call the transition phase, where it basically transitions into the 2nd stage of labor. The 2nd stage of labor begins when you're fully dilated, and it ends with the birth of your baby. This sometimes is referred to as the pushing stage, when it's time for us to push. The 3rd stage begins right after childbirth, and it ends once you deliver your placenta. Now that 4th stage that I was talking about, the one that people don't really pay attention to, but it is extremely important, it's the afterbirth. It's the postpartum part of your delivery. We're stressed, we're tired, and we're sad, and if we're not careful, we could fall into depression. So that's the 4th stage of labor. Before I begin to tell you guys all about the 1st stage of labor, I want to go ahead and take this time to tell you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you can be notified every time I post a video. Go ahead, just do it. You're here. I'm posting great stuff, great content. Just subscribe right now. Okay. The 1st stage of labor is the longest stage of all the stages. Maybe not the postpartum stage, because that can last for weeks. Early labor phase is until you're about 3 centimeters dilated. Active labor phase begins at 3 centimeters and lasts until you're about 7 centimeters dilated. The transition phase is anywhere from 7 to 8 centimeters until you're fully dilated at 10 centimeters and your baby is ready to come out. So during the 1st phase, the early phase of the 1st stage of labor, you should just try your best to relax. At this point, you really don't need to go to the hospital. If you feel like you need to, by all means go ahead. But you might want to take advantage of the ability to just be able to be in the comfort of your home as long as possible, where you can really relax. Maybe even take this time to do some really light household chores so you can keep yourself occupied, but also conserving your energy. Of course, you want to stay hydrated and drink plenty of water, snack on some fruit, make sure you're not eating anything heavy, and keep track of the length of your contractions and how far apart they are from each other. So you guys should know by now, if you are subscribed, that I can never do a video without the one and only Baby Mitchell. Say hi. Hey. Hey. Oh. Alright, where were we, guys? The early labor phase can last anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Contractions will be about 30 to 45 seconds long, and they can be anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes apart, meaning that's how much time of a rest you'll have in between your contractions. At this point, your contractions are probably pretty irregular, but keep in mind that every pregnancy is different. You never know what to expect. Especially if you allow your baby to come on their own, you'll probably find that this phase will move along a lot quicker. During this phase, it is possible for your water to break. If it does and you're at home, you want to make note of the color of the fluid, the odor of the fluid, and document the time of rupture. For the supportive person during this phase of labor, you just want to do your best to help time the contractions, be a calm influence, and offer comfort any way that you can. No, you definitely can't play with that. So going into the next phase of labor, you'll notice that your contractions will gradually get a little more frequent, more rapid, a little more intense, be a little more closer together. If you notice a little discharge, that's okay. But if you notice any bleeding, then you want to get to a hospital if you haven't already gotten to the hospital by now. Active phase is anywhere from 3 to 4 centimeters to 7 to 8 centimeters dilated. This is when your progression is really accelerated, and you'll probably find that at this point, talking yourself through these contractions is no longer working. So it's time to get active. It's time to get up and get moving. When you get to this phase, you definitely want to be with your doula or at the hospital with your physician or midwife. You've got a long way to go to get to 10 centimeters, and it's not going to get any easier from here. This phase does move a little faster than the previous phase, especially if you have consent to Pitocin. It takes about 3 to 5 hours, give or take, and your contractions are anywhere from 45 to 60 seconds long, and you have about a 3 to 5 minute rest in between. This is the phase where most women opt for pain relief through medication, such as an epidural. But this is also the phase where all your natural labor techniques come in handy. So this is where you'll start your breathing exercises. You'll switch to different positions, get up and walk, lean forward, do a lot of rocking in a chair, maybe get in the shower or the bathtub, use that birthing ball or any other tools that they may have for you at the hospital or at your birthing center or at home that your doula brought with her in the car. But you absolutely do not want to be laying on your back in the bed or in a semi-reclining position during this phase of labor. It's going to make everything worse. As far as pain goes, it's going to make the pain a whole lot worse. Support person. At this point, you can give a lot of verbal encouragement and reassurance. Make sure that you're using a very low and soothing voice. Massage her lower back and count for her during her breathing exercises. Well, I knew that wasn't going to last long. Still do your best to keep her comfortable with pillows and her water and a cup of ice and whatever she needs. You pretty much just want to be at her beck and call at this point. And you also don't want to take anything that she says personal, because right now, it's not you. It's the pain. It's the pain. Active labor. Now you got to be quiet. You got to be... Alright, mommies, let's get this video done. The end of active labor is when you begin to shift into the transition phase, which is anywhere from 7 to 8 centimeters to 10 centimeters when you are fully dilated and you are getting ready to shift into the second stage, hence why they call it transition. This is the most intense part of labor. If you have made it this far with no epidural or no kind of pain medication, this is the part where you're going to begin to lose faith. But it's going to be too late to turn back now. So you're going to need lots of support and lots of encouragement. But lucky for you, this phase does not last long like the other ones. On the flip side, you may not even want to be touched or talked to during this phase, because you're going to be concentrating on getting this baby out of your vagina so you can be done with the pain. One contraction at a time. Remember how far you have come thus far and that it is almost over. At this point, that's the best advice that anybody can give you. The transition phase lasts about 30 minutes to 2 hours. Contractions are at least 1 minute long, anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. And you have a 30-second to a 2-minute rest in between each of them. So that is it, ladies. That is the end of the first stage of labor. Be sure, see, this is why you need to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified in the future when I post my next video on stages 2 and 3, and possibly even a video on stage 4. I'm not sure yet, but postpartum is important and we do need to talk about it and discuss it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my video again. Make sure that you guys like it and comment. If you have any suggestions on videos that I should do in the future, please let me know. As always, I have a link to my website in the description box, and I also have a link to my social media so you guys can keep in touch and stay up to date with me outside of my Indigenous lifestyle vlogs. Thanks so much for stopping by. Peace.